ever increase the inputs necessary of getting there. And this is something that we conceptually have implemented now in the way we reach out our projects. And I think, without taking too much out of the forestry sector, the forestry sector understands it more or less in the same way.
I guess right. Your question was a little wider, was it, James? Was it just, or was it just on NPI? So
Yeah,
wider, yes. Now, I think the two big land users really do need to work together, and there's ample evidence of that. If you do, there's some positive gains. There's lots of fair and lots of traditions that have to be overcome, as Gonzalo has mentioned, that with farming you're talking about billions of people, so it's a very, very big reach. But also in forestry too, if you bring in local communities and you're looking at significant numbers of people. So it's the same resource, soil, water, air, and there's enormous room for cooperation.
Okay, so one last question. How do you deal with slow riders, bad players, the worst companies within your sector? Where some sectors are working so hard, some companies are working so hard, you're all measured by the latest accident, but this is something we face in forestry every day. So, very quick reflection, how do you deal with companies that cause the sector as a whole a problem? Just a very quick response, and then we'll open it up.
I mean, through the work that we do with the sector, with the cement sustainability initiative, we do represent a large portion of the cement manufacturing process. And while what we'd like to do is highlight the good examples, and I think this is actually where the role of conservation community, other stakeholders can help with that process to say, look, if your peers are doing this best practice or this good example, why not you? For me, I would be really uncomfortable pointing at my peers, but all we can do is raise the bar and raise the standards and set that as the benchmark at which others can be measured against.
So I think from my perspective, it is critical to work with the industry associations. In mining and metals, ICMM, the International Council of Mining and Metals, has really sort of set a set of principles. A lot of them, one of them directly related to biodiversity, another related to improvement around environmental performance. And I think, ICMM for us represents a very important forum for us to share and work with companies across the sector. So I think for me again, it's about raising the bar. It's not about sort of trying to sort of work at all levels in the industry of people engaged around this. But certainly, I think the ICMM represents a very important channel for us to really share across those committed in the sector.
Only to add, because I fully agree with previous speakers, only to add, we follow three approaches. Preferred through an industry organization. If that doesn't work and we feel that the issue is important enough, we'll look for the coalition of the willing. We'll look for other companies that may have similar thoughts and with whom we could develop these ideas more extensively. And the third option is if we're a truly very strong believer and we expect by taking a stance that we can raise the industry bar, that's what we're prepared to do as well. And as an example, we can give on our unconventional gas principles that we clearly put out in the open, not because we want to be the only player who adheres to these, but because we feel these are important to maintain a license to operate and license to grow in the anticipation that the rest of the industry will follow. So there's various approaches.
So raising the bar and the value of these strong sector associations are good. Any of our four final panelists want to comment on that issue? If you don't want to, that's fine. One?
Yeah, I guess one of the crucial elements is to make it competitive as well, and actually to try to turn it into a competitive advantage. I think our approach at least is if you can demonstrate that you become the partner of choice for many of our customers, that will actually raise the bar also with the competition. Otherwise, I think the only legal way of really working together is through the industry associations. Otherwise, the rest is competition.
Okay, thanks very much. So enough from the panel, and we're now going to open it up to questions and answers. So questions from the floor. We have one microphone, so you'll need to line up and then ask the question. And shall we give a bit of guidance about the questions? All of you tonight are invited to a happy hour in the Business Economy Pavilion. At what time?
7.
7 o'clock. So all of you can talk directly to these people. You've got a burning issue with one particular company. That's a great time to do it. What I would like to get from the audience is your thinking on a scale-up strategy, a scale-up approach that you've heard that you want to comment on. So it'd be great to, yeah, that seems right, but we're also very interested in ideas, innovation thoughts that we haven't raised, the panel hasn't raised. Additional ways of scaling up business action around biodiversity ecosystems across different sectors and geographies. So those would be how we'd like to get the integration going. If you've got a point you would like to make about what you've heard, what you think sounds particularly good, or something that we've missed, that's what you want to get out of the think tank. So just start lining up at the microphone and give us your name. I'm sure if one person starts, come on. The microphone, is there a microphone there? Oh, okay. We'll take this one.
Sorry. Who's looking like who's looking at this thing? We're trying to stop the debate. Yeah, there's no microphone.
Okay, so your name, organization, and then into it.
Okay, my name is Alejandro Rossi. I am from Ecoliure, an NGO from Argentina. Now, we have listened about principles, net positive impact, water footprint, carbon footprint, and more with less, different expressions. What I think is we need to talk about standards. Would it be possible to work on global sectorial standards, not only for operations, but for ecosystem management? I think that is possible. In the country Argentina, this seems to be quite complex because companies doesn't agree between themselves. So in the best of the cases, we have company standards, but we cannot reach sectorial standards. And this brings the discussion very difficult with the civil society, because we don't understand which are those standards, which are those global standards. Thank you.
Okay, so turn this on. So the first question of global standards, and let's get the second one out, Nigel, and then we can definitely repeat.
Do you want me to go?
Yes.
Okay, great. This is about, thanks guys for a really great presentation, and for me very uplifting. This is about questions we want to ask you in 2016, when you've got a green, red and yellow sheet of paper on your desk. It's about how sustainability is embedding itself into the DNA of your staff throughout the organisation. I counted up 900,000 staff members, and your footprint is huge. So if you ask your staff, do you understand natural capital and its importance to the world? Or ask them, do you understand how your company is connected and what it's doing to support nature-based solutions? And ask them to put up green, red or yellow. That would be in itself really interesting. So the question I'd love to ask you in 4 years' time, either in Hawaii, Turkey or South Africa, do 60% of your staff actively support sustainability practices at work and at home? Thanks.
Okay, so let's take those two points, and the panel doesn't need to comment on all of them, but the issue of global standards, as a moving beyond companies, we've been set to global standards. Is that relevant? And then also this issue of capacity building. So they did, was it 2016, Nigel? 2016, we've got 60% of our staff walking the talk. So who would, I know probably Peter would, Mondi would want to talk about global standards, so please.
James, I think we've got a very good example with the Forest Stewardship Council, which is a global standard. It's set centrally, but it's then modified to local national standards. And this has done an enormous amount of good for the forest industry. So you have two standards, you have FSC and you have PFC, and competition between the two of them, they're actually very closely the same these days. Of course there are important differences which both sides will acknowledge, but overall you're not going to have a perfect solution. But Forest Stewardship Council, the FSC standard, has brought about stability in the way Mondi operates and in the way the other companies in our sectors operate. So you've got this continual assessment, the monitoring, and it's been really, really valuable in terms of continuity of management in terms of that. So I think agriculture really desperately needs it. They've got a couple of round tables that are trying to put this together, but I think they need to take the plunge. It makes a really big difference.
Well, we're blessed in forestry because we also have a third standard, SFI. So it's a sector that's very used to global standards, and it's a very relevant and useful tool. Any other panelists want to talk about global standards, people?
Yeah.
So I think, to my mind, we've just got to be a bit careful about standards too early in some of these areas. So as I look upon our journey, we've made a heavy investment in understanding what it takes. We've still got more learning to do. And I think there's a real balance between the theory and sort of locking down frameworks while you're also learning on the ground as to really what works. And so to my mind, I think we need to have high-level supported frameworks that allow us to undertake learning on the ground so we can inform the way forward, rather than getting too much locked down too early in the process.
Okay, the second question was really a capacity building one, and perhaps comments from any of the panelists around capacity building for your staff. I think Nigel's given us a target. Some of you may be at that target already, but Roshila, do you want to kick off?
So in Holcim, we have what's called a strategy house that defines how we're going to realize our vision from the business point of view. And in that strategy house, we've embedded the triple bottom line, the economic value, the environmental responsibility, as well as the social side of it. It's part of how we do business. If I give you one very tangible example in terms of how, as employees, as individuals, we realize this in our personal lives. This year, Holcim is celebrating its 100-year anniversary, and so all of our group companies around the world are doing different initiatives, community volunteering, giving back to the community as part of that celebration. And you see throughout all of the different examples of all the different local activities that are happening, more and more where those are related to understanding the nature that's around our plants in our community and where we operate. In Switzerland and Moldavine, where our office is, we had days where we were cleaning up the local river, removing invasive species. And I remember when we were presenting this as one of the activities, is somebody saying that, okay, now I understand that invasive species is a problem. And so we just do these small activities that embeds the natures around us and what can we do, what is our small contribution that makes it part of how we behave and not just, oh, this is business and this is how we operate. So the volunteering initiative that we've had throughout the company has been a huge opportunity for us to raise this in a very non-technical, non-challenging way, just to get that thinking into people's mind in a relaxed and in a more informal way.
A quick comment from you, and then we've got a few more questions.
Well, Nigel, I'll certainly be happy to join you in Hawaii in 4 years to report back. But Shell has published its sustainability report for many, many years, and it's fair to say that in that report, and also through the introductory remarks by our CEO, it's clear what the expectations are. It's clear how we should behave. It's clear what our commitment is. That is a journey, and it will continue to be a journey, and one should be relentless. And I even consider it my own personal task and target to make sure that the rest of the organization appreciates it to that extent as well. But I'm pretty certain that in 2016, if not now already, Shell staff would wholeheartedly endorse the efforts we deploy and the objectives associated. So I'm positive about that.
Nigel, if you're still here on the 10th, you can join our Future Leaders team who are doing a beach clean-up with a local NGO, so we're starting early. Okay, 3 questions, we've got 5 minutes left, so I hope they're nice, short and sharp, and we get the right panelists to respond.
Okay, I'll try to do my best. My name is Willem Verna. I'm at the moment working for the IUCN Commission on Ecosystem Management and the Rotterdam School of Management in the Netherlands on business and ecosystems, and I was also founder of a business network called Leaders for Nature. The question is about intergenerational approach and ecosystems. We are talking about a long-term commitment of companies on this topic, and I'm very happy that the World Business Council and IUCN and others are bringing this topic here today. But how to do that? 3 observations, and I hope you can give me some answers to this. 1, cross-sectoral partnerships between agricultural companies, forest companies, energy companies, mining companies, based on a landscape approach connected to an area. That's 1. How are we going to do that? That's minimum 20 or 30 years. 2nd, how to involve companies which are not shareholder value companies, but family-owned companies. They have an intergenerational approach. I miss them here. And 3rd, so there are 3 questions, Mr. Chairman, sorry for this. And 3rd, at the moment I'm at the business school. In the business schools, this topic is not addressed. Team for business is not addressed. How can you help us to, when we look from an intergenerational approach, to bring this topic with practical experiences in the brains and the MBA courses of the new generation of business leaders? Because they are still on the old track of economics. Thank you.
Okay, we can certainly answer those next.
Virginia Young. I'm an NGO from Australia and also represent a small business that operates in the carbon and forest field. But my question really is for Peter from Rio, and possibly applies to Shell as well. When you, as you often do, you're operating either mining leases that are joint leases owned by other operators, by other companies. And there's a good example of this on Cape York with the bauxite leases that Rio has together with other companies there. And they have the bauxite actually underpins the ecosystem that supports a particular woodland in that area, and it's proven, thankfully through your research, that it's not actually possible to restore that ecosystem. You would need to actually deal with this, you need to collaborate really with the other leaseholders and presumably the government agency as well, to look at actually relinquishing part of those leases or setting aside part of the leases to protect, in this case, the tetradontal woodlands on Cape York. So that's a form of scaling up that I think you really would be worthwhile considering. The same thing might apply to areas where Shell operates, the tar sands areas in Canada. I don't know whether that's the case. But certainly for a unique ecosystem like the tetradontal woodlands in Cape York, that would be really the only way of ensuring a good biodiversity outcome.
We get it. Next. Thank you, though. Good question. So Peter, that would be your one. Peter Barker, if I could give you a heads up about the business schools and learning. Yeah, please.
Mary Klein, I'm president of NatureServe, an international NGO in the Western US here. Yes, and we have the pleasure of working with a couple of your companies. My immediate thoughts when I was thinking about scaling up in the way a scientist or nature sort of focuses on science for conservation. So the way a scientist thinks about scaling up is a little bit different than the kinds of things that you covered. We often speak about landscapes, and I appreciated the comments from Mondi about the landscape thinking, but I'd like to hear a little bit more before we leave, and then have a chance to talk with you all more later about how you're thinking about the bigger scale of your activities, not just project by project, we have a biodiversity plan,
Okay.
but in aggregate.
I get it. Right, we literally got 2 minutes to answer this. So, Peter Cunningham on the Australian question, Peter Gardner on the scale up across the landscape, and Peter Barker about intergenerational, because this is a project we're working on. So, quick responses, and then talk to them at the party tonight.
Thanks. Listen, I think I won't talk about the specifics of that, but I think this gets to the fact that collaboration and partnerships are critical in this area. Again, if I look at what, when we're looking at a lot of developing countries, we need the government partnerships, we need the partnerships with the communities.